Hi, everyone. So welcome to our social media webinar. And today we're going to be talking about using social media to support your communities and bring some of your prevention work to more virtual spaces. So I think we can just jump in. There's quite a few people on this webinar today, so that's so great to see. Just to do some introductions, my name is Mallory Peak, and I'm a Senior Account Director at DH. That's Desital Heggie, and we're a full-service communications firm based in Spokane. And we do large-scale media campaigns, we do public relations work, design work, video production, a little bit of everything. And we've also worked with many of you as part of the opioid prevention campaign Starts With One. We've also worked with tribes and tribal prevention programs across the state around opioid prevention. We've also worked on a few other communication projects for the Healthcare Authority, some in areas like Healthier Washington, working on Medicaid transformation, on campaigns for Apple Health for kids. So quite a wide range of health and wellness work. So I'll be joined in this webinar a little later by my colleague Kelsey Green, who works on a lot of the social media campaigns for the firm. But I just wanted to give a little background around on myself. So I oversee all the social change marketing projects for DH, mostly in health and safety. Before working on the opioid prevention campaigns, I got my start at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at their national headquarters in New York. There I oversaw marketing for the Out of the Darkness walks across the country, and I have a PhD specifically in communication for social change from the University of Queensland in Australia. Mostly, I'm just really interested in how communication strategies can bring people together and make communities stronger. And as many of us are adapting to this stay home, stay healthy, increasingly virtual way of life, the prevention team asked us to lead a webinar on social media, specifically how social media can support communities during this time. So many of our communities are weathering the impacts of COVID-19 in serious ways, economically, emotionally, and we know that times like these can really test those protective factors that we work really hard to build every single day. So much of our work in prevention is connecting with people in person, gathering together, sharing ideas, or just that daily contact and encouragement to connect every day over time. And more, we're looking for ways to bring those connections we make in person to virtual space to continue that work when we know people really need it. So the goals for this training today, we know that social media trainings can be a little overwhelming, kind of no matter where your experience level is. And in this context, we all are trying to figure out new ways to work. And we don't want to lose sight of what's important. So we've organized this training around 3 broader communications goals. One is increasing connectivity during a time of isolation. Another is promoting protective factors and continuing to build resilience. And third is providing resources and information to support well-being. So in this training, we'll walk through specific content recommendations, and we'll highlight a few best practices in mental health promotion and substance use prevention. So during this training, we will cover platform functions, how to get the most out of the platform that you use, publishing principles, when to post, how often, how to get more followers, and we'll be spending the most time on content strategies. So digging into what kind of content that we can share at this time, and also best practices that we're seeing as communication professionals in this area. So throughout the training, we'll take moments to pause and write down a few reflections. So we have a number of reflection questions designed to help get you started crafting your own social media plan and just capture ideas that you might have during the training. So you'll see a slide where we give you a prompt, and we'll just give you a little time to jot down an answer. And you can also use the question function here on GoToWebinar to share out ideas with the group if you're comfortable with that. But sometimes it's just nice to see how other people are thinking, and it might spark some information, some inspiration, I think, for you as well. So that's the format that we can expect today. So just to dive right in, first, we're going to talk through how specific platforms can be used and how they've been impacted by recent changes. So this is a bit of lay of the land. So for a lot of this training, we're going to be focusing on Facebook and Instagram because these apps are the most widely used and where our audiences are for the most part. They also share a lot of the same functionality as platforms like Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat. There's quite a bit of crossover in terms of functions. So Facebook and Instagram are also more information-based, where platforms like Twitter may focus more on news and politics. TikTok and Snapchat might be more dominated by entertainment. But starting with Facebook, this is a platform that's really ideal for sharing more long-form content, like videos, like article reshares, longer original posts, or linking to a variety of online sources. And while Facebook use has been dipping over the past few years, we've seen a sharp increase in the number of users across demographics on this platform right now. And right now, this is the most popular platform, and people are using it to get news, to connect with friends and family, to connect with colleagues. So we've also seen a lot of use of the live function on Facebook, and use of the live function has actually doubled in the past week alone. So Facebook Live, that function allows you to host your own video broadcast, and it notifies your followers when you're broadcasting. And so a lot of people are hosting their own live streams. And on Instagram, we're also seeing a spike in engagement with people posting more frequently. So this platform is ideal for shorter form content and also for visual content. So it's great for visual content like short videos or more dynamic graphics, infographics, photos. You can link to resources, but there does need to be this visual component. And this is also a platform that has a lot of interactive features where you can have polls or conduct your own question and answers and have people write in. And Instagram also has a live feature like Facebook does, and it just more generally allows you to share video content really easily. So one question that I tend to get a lot on any social media training that we've done is, okay, all these strategies sound great, but how do I get people to follow me? How do I grow my follower base? And I think this is especially true for a lot of us in the room who maybe have kind of dormant social media accounts. Maybe we haven't been posting as frequently because we're doing so much more work in person, or maybe we're a bit new to social media. But whether you have a large following, a robust social media program, or if you're smaller or have been a bit inactive, we have a few tips to grow your following. So the biggest thing that you can do to grow your following is just let people know that you're on social media. So many of us have listservs that we communicate through, that we use for newsletters, that we use for direct emails. So in your next newsletter, you can include a message asking people to like your group on Facebook. If you haven't been posting very much recently, let your contacts know that in light of COVID, you'll be making more content available on your social media platform and linked to your page. And you can also let people in your contact list know that know a little more about what kind of resources will be available, what kind of information will you be sharing. You can let them know that this is a great place to find out about virtual event info, messages of encouragement, prevention resources. You can give a bit of a taste about what kind of content people can anticipate on that page and how it'll be useful for them. Another good tip is to recruit your internal team members or committee members to follow the page and share content to help spread the word. You just want to let your community know that you're online, that you're on this space. You can also share and tag partner organizations or community organizations pages as you publish content, and that will give you a bit more visibility, and it will also let your community partners know that you're active on social media. And you can also consider boosting a few of your posts. So this means you pay a small amount of money for your post to appear in more people's feeds more prominently. So this is actually quite cheap to do, since most of us are targeting smaller groups of people, but it can give your posts a bit more prominence, especially if you have a specific resource that you're really trying to get out there. And of course, publishing content that your followers want to read or share. And I think this tip is one that we'll probably be using the rest of the webinar to tackle today. So I just want to pause to give everyone some reflection time. So if you have a piece of paper available and pen, throughout the webinar, it would be great just to take a moment to capture a few ideas that can later feed into your social media plan and strategy. So just take a moment to write down what platform you want to use, and also think about what tools do you already have to get the word out that you're going to be posting more on social media. So I'll just give you a minute to jot down a few ideas.
Hey, Mallory, we have one question.
Yeah.
Julie is wondering if there's any recommendations on the amount to spend on boosting posts or events.
Let's see, I think kind of boosting price is really related to how often you want that post to appear in people's feeds and the size of group that you're targeting. So there can be a wide range, but I think for most of us in the room, even just doing $25, $50 sometimes would work. Thank you, Grace. And I forgot to mention, we have Grace on the HCA team who will be fielding questions through the chat for us. So thank you, Grace. All right, we're just gonna keep moving forward. So next, I just wanted to highlight some publishing principles, especially during this time. So just generally posting, we want to be mindful of the climate. And throughout communications, I think it's helpful to keep these three things in mind. Just keep top of mind what your audiences need most from you right now. And being open to acknowledging new stressors. It's okay to acknowledge that we're struggling with childcare, with job loss, with fear. And overall, just leading with authenticity, being transparent and real about how we're living now and what we can do. And really making effort to meet folks where they are. So one thing that's been helpful for our team in our communication right now is thinking about how we can move people from a place of fear to a place of learning and growth. So we got this chart from another PR firm, Ripley PR in Tennessee, and this was just a helpful illustration for us as a self-awareness tool that we can use right now to ask ourselves questions, but also to get in mind get into the minds of the audiences or followers that we're engaging with, from youth to parents to families. In the fear zone, we see a lot of feelings of insecurity, perhaps some complaining, some anger, a lot of emotions related to fear. In the learning zone, we see folks leaning into giving it up what we can control, being able to identify and name our emotions, becoming aware of the situation and how to act, evaluating information, and just recognizing that we're all trying to do our best. And in the growth zone, that's where we start thinking about how we can help others, how we can live in the present, and how we can move from a place of gratitude and find those smaller things in life that give us security and encouragement, and being able to adapt to change. So thinking about our social media presence now, how can we help people move from fear to learning to growth during this time? And social media can't be the only thing that helps and moves people, but it's definitely a tool where we can meet people where they are and mindfully choose and share content that we hope will help move people towards learning and growth. So on a practical level, jumping into our social media planning, there are a few things that you can do to save time and make life easier. So one is developing content in batches. Plan your content out on a week-to-week basis. Choose a day to develop your content for the week and schedule it ahead of time to post throughout the week. You can actually schedule posts ahead of time on Facebook. You can't do so for Instagram unless I think you have a paid business account. But on Facebook, it's fairly easy to do. The second is share, share, share. So following reliable and sound accounts and organizations that you know produce quality content, make it really easy to be able to find content to reshare on your own page. So you don't have to create every piece of content from scratch. You don't have to create every post from scratch. So we'd recommend even just one repost or share a week. And these can be resharing posts from government agencies, from credible health and wellness organizations, from your own community network, from other coalition partners. This is a great way to support partners in your community and connect your audiences with information that would really benefit them. And the last is leveraging user-generated content. So you can use interactive reshare templates in Facebook or Instagram. You can also upload them to Instagram stories as a way to engage with your followers, and also collect user-generated content. So kind of collecting photos or responses or feedback or stories that you can reshare on your profile. So we have a few examples of those in the training today. And we really want to emphasize quality over quantity. So especially if you haven't posted in a while, this is an example of just how we often plan internally for content week to week. So we recommend just posting 3 times a week, especially if you're just getting started. But we typically organize our posts by content type to keep things fresh and give us some guiding rails for choosing content week to week. There's so much out there that we could share or highlight, and having just a few pillars will help keep you on strategy. So one is having a post that's interactive, 1 post a week, and this could be a call and response type post, asking a question for followers to respond to, going live, sharing a webinar, sharing an interactive resource to download. Something that's asking your audiences to react or do something, whether it's attending a virtual event or answering a provocative question. There's also, we also want to focus on perhaps highlighting a resource once a week. So that could be specific apps, wellness apps that we want to feature, information from community agencies, a resource in the community that's being provided, really informational. And then having one post that maybe it's an encouraging post. So having virtual encouraging messages from your team, sharing viral feel-good stories, sharing maybe positive statistics that are coming out around health and wellness and family connection, thinking about how your posts may tick one of those boxes can help you organize and curate content that keeps your followers engaged and also supports your prevention activities and goals.
We have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One person, Jennifer, is asking if you can share posts on Instagram. And
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you definitely can. So usually there's a little, if you see a post on another account, there's a little share icon where you can cross-post it to your own account and give credit back to the individual organization that you saw the original post.
And Angela is wondering if you can explain user-generated content more.
Yes, I'm so sorry. This is marketing jargon. And I really tried to scrub this presentation of that. So user-generated content is any content that your followers might develop. So it could be asking followers for a photo of their study space at home and asking them to share. So it's sort of any content that you might reshare from your followers or that they might suggest. Or if you, for instance, ask maybe an open-ended question like, how are you focusing on self-care this week? You could also share out ideas that you receive from your followers and community. So those are sort of user-generated content is, content that might be the seeds of which might be developed by your community, of followers. So I hope that helps clarify that one. All right, so let's dive into content strategy a bit more. So here we're going to weave in some best practices that we're seeing and highlight a few things that hopefully you can take inspiration from in your own way and in your own context. So the content strategies and best practices that we'll walk through, we'll give some examples of how we can accomplish our goals through social media channels. So again, opportunities to increase connectivity, opportunities to promote protective factors, and ways that we could provide resources and information that may be a bit more dynamic. So one that we had highlighted initially was an interactive strategy. So I want to give a few more examples of what a more interactive post can look like. So this is an example from the Calm app, and they actually have these self-care templates that you can post in your own feed on Instagram. But basically, they're posting open-ended questions that help people recognize emotions, that may help people recognize their own self-care strategies. And this is a similar approach that we can adopt. I think it's helpful to think about, are there skill building prompts that you can highlight week to week? On Instagram and Facebook, audiences can share their reflections easily with photos, through GIFs, or through text. You can also ask followers to share their reflections in their own story. Using the example of how are you taking care of yourself right now. They can post that in their own story and share to their own peers. You can also highlight specific responses and share them with the community. For instance, this is how students at our school are taking care of themselves this week. It's a great opportunity to really highlight and show good behavior that folks are taking on. So another example of more an interactive strategy is from Talkspace. So this is an online therapy app, and they have a number of great examples of open-ended questions through their wellness check-ins. So they regularly pose a reflective activity, like summarizing your self-care activity in a GIF, and asking followers to share on their page or within their own networks. Besides just asking a question, you can also offer your followers an activity like participating in a guided meditation. And another interactive idea, especially for parents that are at home with their kids, is offering links to healthy activities, healthy indoor activities that can keep kids busy. So this is a great example from Multicare in the Inland Northwest. So they highlighted downloadable coloring books from a local artist here in Spokane. And this can be something that followers can share to their page, but it gives them something to engage with, and perhaps is a way to support some of those protective factors at home. But that's just one example. So that's a good segue into sharing resources more generally. So having posts that share resources and looking also for dynamic resources. Blogs and podcasts are great examples. So sharing resources from network partners. This is a great example from the Department of Health. But sharing updates on COVID-19 developments, especially as they impact your audiences, is a really important strategy right now. And also highlighting resources that may be available in different languages and that may appeal to different learning styles, especially since a lot of the COVID updates can feel a bit overwhelming to navigate. So this is a great instruction from Department of Health on stay home, stay healthy. But they also share a number of resources that help support safe behavior. So we also have a piece highlighting the new Wellness Washington podcast, talking through what people can do to weather economic stressors and handle kind of the day-to-day business of the pandemic. So here's an example from Department of Health highlighting the Wellness Washington podcast. And then also sharing information around talking to kids about a lot of the changes that they may be seeing. So these resources are really dynamic and really take into consideration all of the things that audiences are coping with right now and ways that we can support them. Another great resource to share is webinars. Especially from strategic partners. So many organizations are hosting webinars and making them available for free. So checking out webinars that your audiences would be interested in and sharing the ones that support your skill building and programming goals is a great approach. And you can also host a webinar debrief on your page. So after a webinar, you can host a live Q&A with a subject matter expert or a member of your team, or you can invite ideas or comments after the webinar on a post. And these are just a few examples of webinars that Mental Health America has going right now. But another resource that we talked a little bit about that is more interactive is finding worksheets or reflection activities to share. So this is just an example from BetterHelp. And these are worksheets that are recovery focused, but there are timely exercises that we would often complete in person, or that you may guide students or parents through. And this is still a great way to share those, especially if you have a worksheet or anything downloadable that invites participation. So thinking about what exercises we can make available to people to do in a self-guided way. So I just want to pause again for some time to reflect and to capture a few ideas. So just wanted to give everyone a moment to think about what resources can your organization provide during this time? What does your audience need from you right now? And what programs, services, information could meet your audience's needs or just feels relevant during this time? So I'll just give you a minute to jot those ideas down for yourself. Grace, should we take a moment to check in with questions?
There's no questions.
Okay, great.
Yes, there's no questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. I did want to just turn to the group, and if you want to just type into the question box, just generally, it would be great to hear what does your audience need from you right now? If you don't mind sharing. There is a big group here, but if a few folks could share, that would be great.
One person stated connection, reassurance and support, mental health resources. And someone asked about being muted. You will, if you put your hand up, I can unmute you. We will have a Q&A at the end where I will unmute.
Yeah, and I just received a few questions on the host chat. A lot of folks asked if the slides will be available after the presentation. Yes, we will definitely make slides available. So I'm so sorry I didn't mention that at the beginning. Please, so you don't have to worry about trying to record links or anything like that. We'll make these available for you. And this is also being recorded. So this webinar should be available as a recording as well. And let's see, and as Grace mentioned, we will have time for a Q&A for just the last 15 minutes today. And I'll actually invite my colleague, Kelsey Green, to join me and help field some questions as well.
Going back to what people need, support and just the ability to know someone is there and cares, hopeful messages and tools for balancing the concerns of this time and duties, mental health resources for multilingual communities, hope that things are going to be better, connection with others. Some people need parenting ideas during this stressful time, food pantries, emotional support, prevention in COVID-19 is different in different languages. resources on depression and anxiety. Our audience needs calm, resources, and knowing we care for the families and the children. And we are sad that they're not seeing us every day.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts with the group. And it really sounds like a lot of what our communication strategy right now needs to do is really interpret a lot of what's happening as a result of COVID-19 for our specific communities. And we're in such a good position to do that. Finding materials that are and sharing materials that are culturally accessible, that are linguistically accessible, but also being able to locate and interpret support for families and youth, even if it's not necessarily directly related to mental health. But also, I think across the board, our communities just really need that mental health and wellness support. So thank you so much for contributing. So I'm just gonna move forward a little bit with a bit more content. So one thing that we did here through the chat, making space for connection, making space for hope. So we want to talk through a few ways that we can do that. So this is an example that our team loved from the YMCA of the Inland Northwest here in Spokane. And a great way just to connect with your community, especially if you're often working with students, is virtual greetings. So being able to give a message of support, of hope, of unity, and video is a really great way to do that. So YMCA and Spokane actually mobilized their employees to create a message for their Facebook page using their own custom hashtag. And their custom hashtag was hashtag stay with us. And this just reads that Deborah, Health and Wellness Director at North Spokane YMCA, is just checking in with everyone. And they also posted that the YMCA of the Inland Northwest staff misses you, stay well and stay with us. And they had all their staff take photos of them holding signs that are spelling that out for their followers. So using a virtual greeting and sharing an uplifting message, that can help maintain connection with your community. It can help remind students that you're there for them. And you can also invite other community members to share video messages through your account. So that could be someone who's working politically, it could be someone from local law enforcement, it could be a popular teacher, anyone that you'd like to highlight and share a message of hope. That's a great way to do that. Another is just going live, using that live feature on Facebook or Instagram, and really thinking about what relationships can you leverage to create or share videos on your feed. So a great approach is asking subject matter experts to offer advice or tips to stay healthy, especially community subject matter experts that are familiar and knowledgeable. Another approach, especially on Instagram, is Instagram takeovers. So having a staff member or a student take over Instagram for a day to maybe post about their healthy practices for the day, maybe live doing school at home, and really just being able to connect around that experience that a lot of us are going through, and being able to highlight peers who are doing healthy things and finding innovative ways to stay healthy and connected. So you can promote a Facebook Live event, an Instagram Live event, just as you would an in-person town hall or an in-person Q&A. And sometimes it's a bit helpful to think of them like that as a virtual version of that. So I just wanted to come back and give the group just one more reflection question and think about who in your community could you approach to go live on social? Who would be appropriate to share a warm greeting, to maybe host a discussion around a health and wellness topic, to facilitate a Q&A. And I just wanted to give everyone a moment to jot down a few ideas. So as we're coming to a close, we also wanted to share ways just to acknowledge the stress of this time. So this is an example from the Trevor Project, sharing crisis information, but also reminding young people to be kind to themselves, really all of us to be kind to ourselves. But you can also follow up with a question about self-care. How are you being kind to yourself today? Really giving people an opportunity to reflect and check in on themselves and others. And another great example is from the group I Don't Mind. This is a mental health awareness campaign on Instagram with a social strategy of just providing and promoting questions to check in with loved ones. So not just yourself, but being able to check in with others around you as well, as we adapt to being far apart right now. So as we come to a close, I just wanted to thank everyone so much for sharing this time with us today. And we hope this session was helpful to you and gives you a few ideas to connect with communities on social, a few new ways to connect. But I'd like to turn this over to question and answers. And I'd also invite my colleague, Kelsey Green, to join me in fielding some questions. So thank you so much.
There are a few positive affirmations people have put into the question box. Just reaching out to schools and teachers, talking through Facebook groups, and reminding people they are not alone, and that things will be okay eventually.
Yeah, those are great. Thank you.
Amanda is wondering if there are resources on connecting with youth through Snapchat and TikTok.
Yes, there are. Just, I think for both Snapchat and TikTok, since they are video heavy, I think being able to create video content, especially sort of those virtual greetings kind of content, is a great way to connect with young people. Asking young people to record and share healthy behaviors that they're participating in, healthy activities, maybe even funny videos of how they're maybe spending time with siblings or pets. There are quite a few ways to use video content, not just to communicate out, but to have people create their own videos and share a message of healthy behavior, of togetherness. Kelsey, do you have any other tips for TikTok and Snapchat specifically?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Great. I would probably just affirm what you said, Mallory. I think TikTok and Snapchat are a little bit more kind of in the entertainment category. I would place them as platforms versus kind of Facebook and Instagram. I think there's a little bit more of an opportunity to share more information based content. But I think you're right on, Mallory. I think Snapchat can be a place where you can engage with your followers in kind of a more personal way. So that could be recording a video, kind of like the YMCA example that you saw, of just kind of a moral or a morale boosting, encouraging recording to your followers, or calling out a specific audience, or even documenting what are healthy practices you're engaging with. That could also be a great takeover platform as well. So using Snapchat as a time to let a student or someone kind of take over the feed for the day and kind of take people on a healthy practice journey. So I think Snapchat could be a great way to do that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. And I just wanted to share this comment from Shastina. On TikTok, a good person to follow is Dr. Julie Smith. She's a mental health therapist and has a lot of good videos. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that tip.
There is a question of, are there any Facebook accounts that are great examples? I think that was answered with Dr. Julie Smith, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are. And I think it really depends on sort of the areas that you're focusing on, and also your community specifically. So being able to follow accounts that are posting content regularly, that are posting content, and you're pretty much the one vetting, right? You're curating content in a way for your followers, for your community. You're picking and choosing what's important. So thinking through, do you think this is quality content? Does this support prevention best practices? A few accounts that I just personally have really appreciate are first, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a great Instagram account. They do a lot of those sort of positive affirmations, encouragement, self-care tips, I think, that are really accessible, especially for youth. They have a lot of good infographics there. I think for perhaps teachers, practitioners, Mental Health America can often have a lot of good resources. And for tribal communities, we've really liked on our team the We Are Native. But I think also being able to really follow local folks and being able to spread that information that's really community specific is important. Let's see, Grace, do you have any other questions coming in on your end?
Victoria states, thank you. No, that's not what I'm reading. Struggle in balancing between number of posts and posting to meet grantors' expectations along with general posts for nonprofit.
Yeah, I think it is a challenge to balance the number of posts that you have, especially with other obligations, other expectations. Our recommendation generally is starting at 3 and being really intentional with those 3. But by no means do you need to limit yourself. But I think being able to plan your posts around content type or intent is really helpful to keep things balanced and help you choose which pieces you want to highlight.
Tanya is wondering if we could repeat the prevention agency that had a really great Facebook page.
Yeah. Let's see. I think there were 3 that I listed. One was the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. that has a great Instagram account with lots of great graphics and encouraging messaging and info on self-care. Another was Mental Health America, that I think has a lot of mental health promotion resources, especially for practitioners. And then for tribal communities, we had talked about the We Are Native project. And Allison asked, is it the American Association for Suicide Prevention? It's the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, so AFSP. It's a mouthful, I'm sorry. You got it. Let's see, we have a question from Amanda. What time of the day do you think is a good time to do posts on Facebook and Instagram that will have people engage and see them? Let's see, Kelsey, do you have any thoughts on this one specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think kind of due to our climate, what I would have recommended a few weeks ago probably looks a lot different now. Just given the fact that most folks' rhythms and routines have really shifted, as we know. I think typically the evenings are a great time to post. That's when we see a pretty high frequency of people being online, both on Facebook and Instagram, and engaging with content, or kind of in the evening hours. So that can be from like 6 p.m. on. But we also see kind of typically late morning as well being a pretty good window, around 10 or 11. But I think, and maybe Mallory mentioned this, I'm sure, earlier, we're just seeing such an increase in just people engaging purely with social media. It's increasing dramatically. So I think with that being said, there's probably no wrong time to share content, but those two windows, kind of late morning and then evening, kind of the evening window, are usually great times to yield good engagement.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelsey.
There is another question asking when and when not to boost a post on Facebook.
Let's see, my general recommendations for boosting a post on Facebook is it a post that you really want to draw attention to? Is it a resource that would be really helpful for people that they may overlook? Kelsey, do you have any specific guidance around when to boost and when not to boost?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would agree with you, Mallory. I think kind of similarly to how you put it, I think if there's a really kind of big push behind, let's say you want to go live on Thursday and you're going to put a lot of resource and energy behind it, and you would love to really draw people into that time. If you had a post kind of previewing that Thursday event, if you had a post going out to promote that event, say on the Tuesday, I would boost that post so that more folks see that you have a Thursday event that they should really attend and be a part of, if that makes sense. So really teeing up high value events or posts kind of in the lead time, boosting those, I think will successfully get people to attend a live or engage with some sort of content that you'd really like them to be a part of. So I would boost kind of in that strategy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Kelsey, for a bit more color there.
There was a question asking if there's any tips for responding to trolls or proactively deterring trolls on social media.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That can be disruptive. There are usually, I would say, two strategies. One is ignoring, not responding, deleting. Another is putting positive information out there and just leaving it at that. Kelsey, Have you had, you've had a bit of engagement with deterring trolls? Would you want to
Yes.
talk a little?
Absolutely. Yep, it happens. And I think even that's just a great kind of reality out the gate is it happens, and it happens across the board, and it's something to expect, but it's also not something to be fearful of, or if it does happen, to panic about. I would agree with Mallory. I think it's a great opportunity to respond in a tactful, gracious way with positive information. And of course, kind of depending on what the topic is, or what the messaging or content is about. I think you can often, what a best practice would be is to attempt to take it offline. So what you don't want to happen is for an issue to play out in real time with people watching. So we often recommend that you invite it offline with the individual. And you might do that by saying, and having some messaging kind of ready for those occasions when they do come up, of just kind of a nice greeting of, hey, we appreciate your thoughts or your concern. We would love to connect with you, and here's how you can connect with us. And that might be through a direct message on Instagram, or through an email that you can answer offline, or even a direct phone number, just to take it kind of offline and out of view from the rest of your following. But it's also a great time to engage well and build your reputation.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. That's a great tip too, and just you know, putting that personal contact out there, and offering a personal conversation will also, you know, if it sort of keeps snowballing, it's clear that it's a bit unreasonable, especially if you've offered to connect with those individuals personally. So thank you so much. That's a great tip. Yeah. Let's see. And thank you for all of the thoughtful questions. This is so great for us to hear from you.
There is a question on Instagram. How do you share others' posts?
Yeah, I can answer that. There's a couple ways you can do it. One is you can screenshot a post and then upload it kind of as your own photo from your own gallery onto your feed. But I think in terms of kind of algorithm and kind of cross promotion and from a tagging perspective, I think the best way is if you want to share something that you see on someone's story, you can, there's a feature, and you can kind of find the step-by-step online through Instagram, but you can share someone's story to your own story, and it's kind of a one-click process. But by doing that, the source of the content gets notified that you shared, and it's kind of an opportunity to tag that partner on your page. So what I mean by that is if someone were scrolling on your page and they see something that you shared from someone else, they can directly link to that source. So it's kind of a nice way to, you know, if you're sharing from a strategic partner, it's kind of a nice way to demonstrate kind of active partnership by sharing directly. And it allows kind of the user to be directed back to the source of content if they choose. So you can either screenshot or kind of share directly from the source.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. So, and I think we have time for one more question.
There's no more coming in right now. We can hang out for a little bit and see.
All right. But let's see, I did receive one question asking how long this webinar would be, the recording would be posted. And Grace, I wasn't sure if you had an answer to that one.
We have someone right now looking into it. It kind of depends on what people want. So if it's not being utilized anymore after a certain amount of time, it likely will not be available. But I cannot give a definite answer right now.
Okay.
Not for a small amount of time.
Yeah, my guess is at least a month.
Yes.
At least, yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Grace, and thank you, Kelsey, for joining me today and helping field questions. And thank you for everyone for participating in this webinar and for your excellent questions and your excellent feedback. And it's a tough climate out there, but we so appreciate the work that you're doing and all of the ways that you're looking to connect with your communities and make them stronger and better. So thank you so much, and all the best to you in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Mallory. Thanks, everybody.